Justice Clarence Thomas is addressing criticisms that he failed to disclose luxury trips he took with a billionaire. This stems from a report yesterday from investigative journalism group Pro-Publica. The report catalogs various trips that Thomas accepted from Republican megadonor and businessman Harlan Crow. The report says that for more than 2 decades, Thomas has gone on luxury trips aboard Crow's yacht and private jet and vacationed at Crow's private resorts. Pro-Publica alleges that the justice failed to report the trips on financial disclosure forms. In a rare statement sent via the Supreme Court's Public Information Office, Thomas said that the trips he took with Crow were personal hospitality from close personal friends, and that he didn't disclose them at the time because he was advised that he didn't have to report such trips. Thomas says Crow and his wife are among his family's dearest friends. Over in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis is planning to take new action against Disney. The latest dispute comes as Disney tries to keep its self-governing power.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Thursday promised more legislative actions against Disney. Earlier this year, Florida lawmakers stripped Disney of its self-governing status, but the dispute isn't over. Disney recently tried to hold onto its power by outmaneuvering the governing board appointed by DeSantis.
There's a provision of Florida law where the legislature can void that. I think that the state board's going to void it too. So on both ends, I think that'll be taken care of. But what the speaker said and what I've said is now that this has been reopened, all options are on the table.
The new board members appointed by DeSantis said Disney-controlled predecessors passed a series of agreements that stripped the new board of its power. Disney's latest move stunned the DeSantis administration. The Florida governor addressed the dispute in a Q&A session Friday.
In the ensuing weeks, you're going to see a lot of very, very strong action that's going to basically validate what we said. But there will be additional legislative action taken in Tallahassee that will nullify what they tried to do at the 11th hour.
The Florida governor has hired lawyers to examine the legality of the agreements and called on Florida's chief inspector general to conduct an investigation. DeSantis said he's also considering imposing new hotel taxes and tolls on Disney World. Reporting by Allison Lee, NTD News.
Several documents of what appears to be secret information about the war in Ukraine have been leaked online. And if the documents prove to be true, it could mean U.S. troops are on the ground in Ukraine. NTD's Jason Perry takes a look at those documents.
The Pentagon is now investigating what appears to be secret documents about the war in Ukraine that were leaked online. They appear to be U.S. and NATO military documents with classification markings of secret and top secret. As of now, no official statements have been made about who was responsible for the alleged leak. In an email to NTD, the Pentagon gave us this statement. We are aware of the reports of social media posts, and the department is reviewing the matter. U.S. officials say the documents look like real slides from the Pentagon, but also say some of the information has been altered. For example, a document from March 2023, classified as secret, says between 60,000 to 70,000 Ukrainian troops have been killed in action, which is higher than what the Pentagon says it estimates. The documents also estimate Russia's casualties to be around 16,000 to 17,000. But U.S. officials say they estimate around 200,000 Russian troops have been killed in action. Another document, also classified as secret, is dated February 2023. It shows the amount of Western weapon systems that Ukraine currently has on hand and the estimated delivery of additional systems. And it also lists the training Ukrainian forces have or are expected to have on those systems. The director of Grand Strategy at Quincy Institute, George Beebe, had this to say on the Hill.
One potential hypothesis here is that this was designed to get the Russians to let their guard down, to think that the Ukrainians are not going to be coming at them with big numbers and overwhelming force. And that's possible, but I think if you were really trying to throw the Russians off, you would want to include some things that would include where and when the Ukrainians might be attacking. That would be the ultimate aim of this kind of deception.
Something else that was shown in the documents is the presence of nearly 100 special operations troops in Ukraine from NATO countries, including from the United States, France, and the UK, according to the New York Post. Russia's Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said this in a statement to CNN. We don't have the slightest doubt about the direct and indirect involvement of the United States and NATO in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Well, of course, it makes the whole story more complicated, but it can't influence the final outcome of the special operation. Jason Perry, NTD News.
And next we hear from a woman who survived Mao's Cultural Revolution in China, fled to America, and even ran for the U.S. Congress last year. Lily Tang Williams peers through the lens of history in her assessment of recent developments in the transgender and gun control movements. Let's see that now. Lily Tang Williams, welcome to our show. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Now, you and other Chinese Americans have drawn parallels between pro-trans and other far-left activists and the Red Guard, brigades of militant students who helped purge Chinese society of those who opposed Mao's rule during the Cultural Revolution, which you lived through. Tell me more about the parallels that you see.
Well, the hallmark of Mao's Cultural Revolution is to use identity politics and weaponize the youth who are idealistic and worship his regime, worship him as a god. So that he used almost semi-religious indoctrination and daily propaganda to get them to be weaponized and militarized, and even toward the end, and that very violent to torture people who are not so-called red classes. And so I've been warning people about this kind of indoctrination in our schools and colleges, because young people, they're not taught history very well, so they don't recognize those tactics, and they also don't know that what is really truth. So we are very terrified to say that what is happening today in America.
We've seen pro-trans activists recently accosting NCAA champion Riley Gaines after she spoke out for women's rights in sports. And it follows a similar event in New Zealand where a protester threw sauce on the speaker amid unruly protests. Do you see these marks of violence as connected to communist ideology?
Well, they certainly use their tactics. Our young people in this country don't know what they're doing, and they don't think, and they are the ones who are fascists and who are silencing other people. They think they're right because they are brainwashed to believe their cause is #1 priority. They got to do this, thing right and be part of this so-called transgender movement. But the thing is, if they study history, then they will know Mao actually used young people, even use young girls, and want them to actually dress like boys, like soldiers, and to join the revolution, destroy 4 cultures. And he's trying to create a genderless societies, erase girls and women and the gender differences, and get them all to be loyal to the revolution. And so I feel so sorry to see those young people are being used and naive, idealistic, and now getting involved in this kind of movement, almost use mob tactics, which can lead to the violence and the injury and death of people against the opposition. So it's not like about America. We don't have to agree with each other. We can have discussion and conversations. No, you must be shut up if you don't agree with us. So there's no free speech on college campuses. If you don't agree with them, you don't kowtow to them, and they're going to come to shut down your speech event, and they will, even damage you personally in terms of physical health. It's very sad to see this happening.
And turning to gun control now, you've been alerting people to precedents in history where gun control preceded state-enforced atrocities. What's the lesson that you think that we should draw from that, and what's an example of that?
Well, that I understand young people want to participate and to, reduce the crimes, and they're very afraid and they live in fear. But the thing is, though, they don't understand the truth. They don't understand the cause of the problems. #1, gun-free zones for schools are drawing criminals come to do the damage, do the harm. Because, hey, nobody with guns legally can shut them down immediately. You have to call 911 first. And secondly, they bought into the left media rhetoric. The Republicans are the bad people, and if you support Second Amendment right, but Ted Cruz just offered lots of help from the federal government to arm guards to protect students' safety in schools and to give more funding. And the Democrats shut him down. They don't want to talk about how to really protect students and teachers, but they just want to use gun control. But the gun control, we all know, whoever fled totalitarian regimes, gun control works because everybody will be enslaved. You don't have access to guns, and you cannot have a way to fight back. Our founding fathers put the Second Amendment in the Constitution because they know that's the only way we can prevent tyranny in the United States of America. History lessons need to be taught. The communism evils need to be taught in our schools, but our schools are not focused on that today. They are focused on Marxism, socialism, transgenderism, identity politics. America is a systemic racist country, capitalism bad. It's very terrifying for me to say that. Did the communists follow me come to America, or they're all over the Western countries? Maybe we don't call them communists because people don't recognize they are actually use the communist tactics to divide people to do the revolutions. So it takes us immigrants who see the writings on the wall to come out publicly and loudly to educate the public, to warn people we don't want to go down that path.
Thank you so much, Lily Tang Williams, former New Hampshire congressional candidate and a survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.